What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's get into it. I mean, we all know Nas and 50 had a beef, and some people are like, didn't he cover this already? But no, I really haven't. I don't think I did. I probably, because so many stories go in between stories, like with beefs. So, it was just different type of situations at the time that put people in bad predicaments, in other words. So, let's start from the beginning. Shall we? Now, we sitting here bobbing our head to Nas, and when Big died and Pac is gone, everybody was like, well, who's the artist to run to? And Nas was the guy everybody ran to. Like, well, let's go run to Nas. You know, Nas was the guy now. Let's go run to him. And the fact that Pac mentioned him on Machiavelli, people was like, wow. Like, they never knew a beef with Nas and all that stuff even existed until they saw or heard the Machiavelli album. So Nas got the firm coming out, and everything is everything, and every producer want to work with him, and he's the hottest thing out. At this time, 50 Cent is in the streets, don't know if he wants to rap, sell drugs, sell guns, and the two are so far apart that it doesn't even make sense. So Nas is coming out with his double CD. He's working on I Am and the Nostradamus album. So Tone and Pope at this time were the up and coming producers. They was, helping everybody with their deals, and they mostly had their own little production thing signed through Columbia. So 50 got his deal through Columbia. And when he got his deal through Columbia Records, that's what the whole power of a dollar and all this stuff started to happen for him, and all his little mixtapes and songs he was doing was finally finna pay off. So he had recorded like 4 or 5 songs, and then Tone and Pope was with 50, and they told him one song he did, they was like, well, we catching a lot of heat over this song, like we gotta make something for the radio. Columbia wants something for the radio, and we got this thing that's coming up. It's called In Too Deep. This movie with LL Cool J, and we want you to be on the, go ahead and be on the single. Now, Nas was working with Tone and Poke at the time, doing a lot of work with them, getting them, because they were the hot producers, and Columbia was like, yeah, use Tone and Poke like this in-house. So Columbia was pushing for them to work together and basically try to salvage anything that's, coming with the project. But Nas is trying to push out Nature. We kind of stayed with him after the Fern album flopped. So Nature's still, running with Nas at this time. And everything is everything. Now, 50 Cent and Nas started to get close through the introduction of it's by Tone and Pope. It was talking about 50, like, man, he's from Jamaica, Queens, and this and that. And Nas was like, yeah, my people's know him, yeah. They said he a good dude. So when he came out with the How to Rob record for the In Too Deep soundtrack, it was very noticeable he never put Nas' name in it. He put every rapper name in the song, but he didn't put Nas' name in it. And he's talking about robbing all these rappers, but not Nas. And Nas heard the record and thought it was funny. He was like, man, you silly. But he actually said, dude's gonna catch feelings about it though, watch. I know these cats, man, they take themselves really serious. And it's like, they ain't gonna take it as a joke. They gonna wanna do something to you, throw a bottle in the club or something. And he was like, trust me, they gonna wanna do something. And 50 had a bunch of street dudes rolling with him at the time. He had Domination and all those cats and people who used to hang with the Lost Boys. They was all running with 50 because they was all 50 finna blow. He gonna be the next thing. So we gotta get behind 50. So 50 had a lot of street dudes with him. Smurf, all them clues, you know what I'm saying? So, anyhow, once they saw 50 Cent make that song and all the backlash that came from it, you know what I'm saying? When every beef in the world started because 50 Cent made how to rob an industry dude. In the song, they say this is not serious. It was for the soundtrack. Tone and Pope got put in a bad position. And the position was, they was like, look, your man is making these threats on this record. So, he doing all this, I'm going to have to come at you. And we going to start shaking the tree. And Tony Pope's like, man, these artists talking about beating us up. They know where we live, all because we promoting 50 Cent's album. Like, dude, we don't control what the artists make in the studio. He's like, well, you gonna get beat up with it. That's just all it is. People offended. We don't know this dude, and this dude coming in here talking about us like that. How you talking about something it's cool to do when we don't know him? So now it's just like, man, like telling 50, like, man, don't even worry about that. You'll be alright. And he was like, man, people are really upset about this record. And he's like, some of these dudes is washed up. They just trying to use it as some buzz to get back in the game. He was like, I told you that was going to happen. So they cool, they tight, and he using 50. 50 was like his running buddy. Because he would tell 50 to go do stuff for him. And he had the Puffy joint out at the time. The song, Hate Me Now. You can hate me now. 50 was like, man, I need a joint like that. He was like, that's the kind of joint record I need on my album. That Hate Me Now joint. He's like, I need some, something like that where they could play on the radio. Because he's like, that song every day, it's getting so many spins. So he told him, he was like, look, man, stick with me and I'll make sure you alright. You know what I'm saying? You the future. I'm going to make sure you alright. Just stay away from the snakes. If you stick next to me, I got you. So everything was cool until 50 got into it with a bunch of dudes at this time. He had the Herb Gotti situation, and with Ja Rule and all that stuff, the baseball bat thing upside the head. Nas had took him on the Nostradamus tour. That Nas would use him to get him weed or try to get a chick number and all that stuff. He used 50 for all that stuff. So 50, Nas is feeling invincible during those times. And then after the Nostradamus tour, he kind of like chilled out for a minute and just enjoyed the fruit of his labor. He didn't really have to put out nothing at that time, so he was just chilling. And he was working on a project where he could put all the Queensbridge rappers out on a song. You know, the Queensbridge album, that way he can just donate something back to the hood and help rappers, you know, get their career on and shine on. And to this day, I haven't heard no other rapper do anything for anybody as much as Nas had. For all the people like, oh, Nas don't be doing this, Nas don't be doing that. He's the only one I've heard that did something actually to try to put the neighborhood back home. I'm like, man, I can't think of another rapper that did that. Anyway, going into the story, 50, after a little bit after the incident with Ja Rule, about a month, 2 months later, he gets shot. And he gets shot so many times. They take him to the hospital, they dump the guns in the sewer, and then they go to the hospital and drop 50 off, all that stuff, and 50 survives the shooting. And anybody who was associated with 50 Cent just spread it away from him like roaches. Nas is gone. Tone and Poke was gone. And all these people was around 50 Cent was gone. So, all of a sudden, Tone and Poke was like, man, Columbia wants to pull the album. They don't want the album to come out. They scared. Which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. You spent all this money on a record, on the album, which it was a $60,000 signing bonus, which is really nothing. And you got this for cheap. Your artist gets shot, and you don't think it's a good idea to put out the record? That person should have been fired right then and on the spot. Right now, that's like marketing gold today. But they were like, oh no, this artist is shot. We are not putting out this record. You know, this is what I feared. So now they think the album ain't finna do that. They saying it isn't good enough. See, this back when politics used to take place. Like, Nas had Cormega deal basically shut down. And his album sat on the shelf for so long, so many years, till they finally let Cormega buy the record back. Like, many years down the road, he wanted to buy the record because the record was dope. He was like, nah, the record's dope. So what? It ain't got Nas on it. They were looking like, we can't sell it without Nas. So the price they wanted for the record was unreasonable, so he waited. Now, back to 50, same situation. He wanted the Power of the Dollar out. Then he's like, you know what? Forget the Power of the Dollar out. Forget it all. I'm going to start anew. And I'm going to start from mixtapes. Because nobody would give him a deal. So he decided to make himself hot and start selling mixtapes. And the rest was history. The rest was absolute history. 50 started making a come up in the game. And Jennifer Lopez was even coming up. And this is when he started feeling a certain way about Nas. You know, with the J-Lo situation. Because Jennifer Lopez had this song coming up. Tone and Poke was going to put him on the remix. Of course, we all know that. And they put the J-Lo song out with 50 Cent. And this is what 50 was telling Nas about when he was like the hate me now type of thing. He's like, I need to do more radio-friendly tracks that they're going to play on the radio. So when he did that with J-Lo, it was actually a nice record. I actually like his verse better than Nas' verse on the record. Next thing you know, Irv Gotti pulled strings, threatening him, telling him not threatening him, but sending dry threats, telling him 50's dangerous, people trying to kill him, Jennifer Lopez's life could be in danger by them putting it. So they felt nervous, oh wow, having this guy in the video. And it was thanks Irv for warning us. But what we gonna do? Who we gonna get in here? He was like, why don't y'all try to get Nas? He's on Columbia. He'll do the remix. Offer him the money. So Irv went and talked to Nas and was like, Nas, they finna pay you this much money just to be on the Jennifer Lopez remix. All you gotta do is just for the video though. You gotta be in the video with Jennifer Lopez and do this and that. Nas, straight for real? Alright, thanks Irv. Cool, yeah, I'll come get that. So they paid him X amount of dollars and it was all good. He had X amount of dollars, it was a good payday. But 50 needed it for the exposure, to put his face out there. And when that didn't happen, now Nas is the enemy. Nas has started working against him. So when 50 saw that Nas was upset with him, he was like, oh man, we'll finish that. We'll fix that. I understand why he's mad. We can settle that with a conversation. Then 50 does an interview and just basically called Nas a coward. Nas is a turn on everybody he knew. Turn on Cormega. He turns on everybody. Nas is a snake. So when he did that, Nas had a concert and Nas dissed him on stage. And once he did that, talking about 50, this and that, MTV, 50 used that as an engine. He wanted to use that to get Nas' attention and basically pave a way for something to happen. He was getting ready to launch his record, Lloyd Banks, and everything else, so he used Nas beat to try to boost and promote Lloyd Banks. So when Piggy Bank came out, Ja Rule had just came out with that 100 guns, 100 clips. That's why he involved everybody who was on that song. Plus he wanted to say something for Nas, so Nas can react. So the Piggy Bank dissed Nas, and Nas was livid because it dissed Khalees, and we all knew that line. And Nas, when he tattooed Khalees on his arm. He put it all. The magazine was out probably a month or two before the video dropped. And when she saw that, Nas went and tattooed the chick on his arm because he had Khalees tattooed on his arm. And people was like, what's wrong with Nas? And then there's this cartoon character, this guy looked like Nas in the superhero outfit. So people are laughing at Nas. This isn't good. So when this situation happened, you got Nas looking around like a loser. He's ticked off. Like he just got married. He's just finna get married and get engaged and all this stuff, and this is happening around the same time, so he's upset. He had just did Stillmatic, Ether, Godson, all this stuff. There was none of this drama when he was with his girl. The moment this happened with 50 Cent, when 50 was running and ruling everything, Nas had backed him when he came out. He was the underdog from New York. They wanted to see him do good. Then he started turning on people, and then this happened. So MTV interviewed 50 Cent. He was like, people think I'll be attacking people for no reason. Then they showed the clip of Nas concert. Then they showed 50. Like, this is why I put him on the record, and because he did the concert. But it don't show you when 50 did the interview in the magazine, calling Nas a snake. You know, because of the J-Lo situation. Nas didn't even know about 50 Cent being on the record. He just got a call, like, hey, you want to do a remix and get this money? Yeah, sure. So that's all it was. So they never really had a beef. But once she crossed the line, mentioning Khalees and her Milkshake song, which is her biggest hit to date, and Nas situation, you know, so it became a bad situation to be in. Because at this point, Nas is livid. I mean, he was like, get guns on him. I want people to shoot up his bus. Nas is losing his mind over this. That's how in love he was. He was in love with Khalees. He was really sprung on her. Like, that's my queen. You know, he was really feeling that. She's like Cleopatra. You know, like, it's my goddess. Like, when I first met her, I knew she was gonna be my wife. I'm like, it's not what you tell them, Nas. So, anyway, Nas was making these little, like, songs, Don't Body Yourself, and he had another, like, a Jackin' for Beats type song. Nas is in his group, you know. I don't want to talk to him. Nas is in a groove, and at this point, everybody was gonna get it. That got in the way. So after the Milkshake situation, 50 put out a song where he just talking through the hook. Talking about some, I heard Nas talking about me. He can't even mess with my dude. You hear these guys? Oh my God. And then he just, because he's using it as promotion for Lloyd Banks. He's not really treating it as a real beef because it wasn't. So when Nas talked about 50 Cent, he was like, 50 Cent didn't see a Bentley. I showed 50 Cent his first Bentley. I had a Bentley before 50. And I showed him my Bentleys and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, Nas was telling the truth. He didn't lie. He was the first one to show me a Bentley. But he's like, that's like what? 1999? You know, when he had a Bentley, and it was nice. I mean, at that point, I had never seen a Bentley before. But now, today, you know, Nas would be a window shopper. And that's when Window Shopper was out, and he called Nas a window shopper. So when Game came out, because 50 whole thing, I mean, Nas' whole thing was, I got to get rid of 50 Cent. He can't handle fame. And it's gone in his head. And now he's got to go. So Game come out, and then they had the altercation with Game. That's when Nas said, now, see? That's how you get rid of 50 Cent. 50 is done it. Now I'm going to side with Game to solidify it. And now it's over. He can't recover from that. Nas knew from the jump it was over. He said, oh, it's over. It's like 50 made a mistake. He brought him in too close, and now he turned on 50. 50 tried to turn on him, and that's the wrong guy. He just had this big movement, and 50 thought, I'm big enough to check you, and it's like, no, you can't. Now while that young boy got that movement like he got, people gonna roll with him over you now. He's like, you gonna put yourself in the crosshairs at a wrong time. He's like, this is the guy that got the energy to put him out the game. And he was like, I'm finna side with his, because he got the energy to get him out the game. So I'm gonna take the young guy under my wing and side with him, because he already got the people. So I'm finna side with him. And when he sided with Game, and he got his people over there that's backing him, Jimmy, and they all know Nas, and Nas knew Preem and all these people. You know, Nas' father used to hang around with Preem and all these guys because they used to do jazz shows and all these like blues shows. They used to produce them and put them out. Plus, there's a lot of just people knew him. You know, people act like everything's a mob movie, but it's it's not. People just happen to know people. That's just all it is. Just like what Nas said on the song, right? Now every rapper want to claim they all hung with Kenneth Supreme Griffin, but when people get knocked, they don't want the same sentence. And it's true. So after all these diss records and songs and siding with Game, we all saw what happened to 50. The tower he sat on started to crumble from within. And the people start having to pick, who would I want to go with in this situation? Do I go with Game? Do I go with 50? Do I go with Game or do I go with 50? But what it did was it hurt the brand because it confused the consumer, and it let other rappers come up, and they was like, some people was just like, look, I'm tired of them too. Let me go over here to this new guy. This new guy talking about some glow in the dark shoes. I'm finna go listen to some glow in the dark shoes. And it was exactly how Nas said it was gonna go. And it closed the window on 50 quicker than people expected. Because when his last record came out, it was a bit of a problem, the third one, which was one of his best records commercially that he ever made. That had AO Technology, I Get Money, the Robin Thicke song. I mean, that album was loaded with just a bunch of commercial, like, should be on radio songs. Like, Curtis' album was loaded. And you saw where that happened, and that started to decline. Because it was like, wow, why is this such a big drop-off? Because everybody had it. It was leaked out already. 50 Cent created an avenue that was also self-destructive, but I'll talk about that later. Now that the situation is starting to, you know, that it's basically dead, Nas was in the studio working on another diss record with Game about 50 Cent. They was finna put it out together. Then somebody told him, like, man, don't do that because dude gonna feed off of it. Don't do it. He was like, no, I'm just gonna address. He called me a window shopper. How you gonna call me a window shopper? You know, like, I had money way before this guy. This guy used to be under me. Yeah, he got some money now, but like, I'm a window shopper. So Nas is offended. He's like, dude, it's a trap. You know, don't fall for it again. So after this, they kind of had a sit down, a little talk, when things was not going good. You know, and 50 was just sitting on the sideline, and they finna do the album Before I Self-Destruct. And Nas was like, I ain't gonna be on the record, but you know, we all good, because he said, I never really had beef, you just, you know, disrespected my wife. He was like, when I did it, you wasn't married. He was like, if you was married, I'd have never put out the record. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you was calling her wifey, but you know, people break up. You know what I'm saying? I was dissing her using that because I know how you is about women. So I went and did that because I knew that would be the best way to get at you. And he was like, oh, that was smart. You know, like, I ain't worried about that. He was just like, yeah, but, you know, we was engaged. You know, I was getting ready to marry her at that time, you know. So my aunt was at stake. But then they was cool, sat back, chill. And that's why 50 at that point was like, you know, me and Nas really ain't had a talk like that. We had one little talk and everything was cool, but never nothing on like working together. Nothing. It was just a respectful thing. And they got off their chest what needed to be, because 50 knew that Nas was blindsided by that. But everybody thought, like, when he did this Pledge song with Ja Rule, that he was going to sign Murder Inc. And that wasn't the case. He didn't sign with Murder Inc. So he never had a problem with 50. 50 was like, oh, well, he didn't sign with Ja now. But still, it had to look like he was going to do that. And that would have been crazy. But to this day, when they came out on stage for the NYC event, and everybody went crazy, cheering, going up and down, jumping, it brought back a lot of memories. Because he did the Hate Me Now song on stage, the song that 50 loved with Diddy. And they bridged it into I Get Money. When I was getting money, funny, I was just like you. And then he bridged it into I Get Money with him and Nas on stage. And that was cool. How they came up with the concept to do that when they sat down and talked and stuff. It was beautiful to see that concert, to see New York get back together and do some tracks. Because overall, 50 makes great music. So does Nas. I still listen to 50 music, and I can still listen to Nas. That's just how it goes. When people are great and they make great songs, I don't let the public tell me they ain't hot. Public be, yo, he's whack now. Why? Because the internet told you to like somebody else? I'm supposed to just stop listening to the music? So, anyway, that's that. Hope I didn't take up too much of your day. Just wanted to try to give you a quick rundown of what happened with the little situation. But everybody good now. Queens!